Imagine dangling over a pit of starving zombies while your ex and her new guy laugh at you. That is exactly how Jiang Xiaoyong spends his final moments before becoming an all-you-can-eat buffet. Cui Jing, the woman who played the helpless victim just to infiltrate his safe zone, stands at the edge of the pit with Li Shuxiong. They gloat over the fresh corpses of Xiaoyong's friends. That mob boss even thanks Xiaoyong for all the supplies that he collected which will feed them for months, before casually tossing him to the horde. It is the ultimate betrayal, honestly fumbling a survival streak harder than the France in the semifinals. As rotten teeth sink into his flesh, Xiaoyong screams a bloody vow of vengeance, promising that he will make them both pay if he somehow gets another chance to live. Then he blinks. No zombies, no blood, just the ceiling of his old apartment and the deeply annoying voice of Cui Jing herself, demanding he put her name on his house deed and cough up a 400,000 yuan bride price. Xiaoyong checks the digital clock on the wall. May 7, 2034. He has completely regressed. He is exactly 1 month away from the global zombie outbreak. Realizing he does not have to die for this absolute walking red flag again, Xiaoyong flat out rejects her extortion. He gets up and straight up kicks her out of the apartment. She couldn't believe what just happened. Alone in the quiet apartment, a chime rings in his head. The apocalypse system has officially activated. His first mission is called Apocalypse Preparation. He needs to secure a piece of land and stockpile a year's worth of provisions. The reward for pulling this off is 10 shop points. He checks the system store and sees exactly what he needs to survive this upcoming hellscape. There is a physical enhancement potion that boosts physical stats by 5 points for 10 shop points, plus a basic farmer supply box and a medium-sized fortress supply box. Suddenly, his stomach growls. He remembers how he spent his past life literally starving himself to save up for Cui Jing's ridiculous bride price. Never again. He immediately orders a wildly expensive Michelin 3-star braised pork meal. If the world is ending, he is going out with a premium food coma. Mid-bite, Cui Jing's best friend calls to scream at him. She claims he just failed Cui Jing's ultimate relationship test. Xiaoyong just tells her to get lost and hangs up. The amount of peace he feels blocking these people is honestly better than years of therapy. Now fueled by high-end pork and pure spite, he sets his sights on survival. He needs a secure, defensible fortress near a forest and a water source. He heads straight to the local real estate office to buy land. A sweet, polite sales agent named Xiao Ning walks up to help him, but her obnoxious boss, sales manager Zhu, instantly intervenes. Manager Zhu takes one look at Xiaoyong's cheap clothes and laughs in his face. He tells Xiao Ning to stop wasting time on a broke loser who probably could not even afford to buy a toilet, ordering her to go move heavy boxes instead. Zhu is so furious that he loudly declares a public bet. If this broke kid actually manages to buy even a toilet today, Zhu swears he will livestream himself eating actual feces, which is definitely a bold strategy for customer retention. But hey, we all have our kinks. Jiang Xiaoyong casually shuts down sales manager Zhu's trash talk by slamming down a premium black card. He declares he is here to buy land, instantly turning Zhu from a smug bully into a sweating mess. Xiao Ning, the only polite agent in the room, steps up to show him the properties. Xiaoyong lays out his exact demands. He needs a spot near mountains and running water, with solid transportation links and pre-existing factories. Sensing a chance to be a snake, manager Zhu chimes in and pushes the T-City land in the East District. Xiao Ning tries to warn Xiaoyong, explaining the project is completely abandoned because the construction team packed up and ran away. But Xiaoyong is thrilled. He immediately realizes an unfinished industrial site is the absolute perfect defensible fortress that will save him serious time and money. He signs the contract without hesitating, dropping a cool 300,000 yuan down payment from a recent $500,000 transfer. With the ink dry, Xiaoyong turns back to manager Zhu and loudly reminds him about his little promise. The entire office watches in amusement, pressuring the manager to fire up his live stream and start eating literal feces. Honestly, getting cancelled on the timeline is bad, but having to eat poop on a live broadcast because you underestimated a guy in a cheap shirt is fumbling harder than the Egypt against Argentina. A chime goes off in Xiaoyong's head. The system task updates. He has successfully hit the 1 out of 1 requirement for owning land, instantly earning 10 system shop points. Meanwhile, the resident parasite, Cui Jing, gets a tip-off from Li Shuxiong about the purchase. She immediately assumes Xiaoyong just blew the money meant for her absurd bride price. Her equally annoying associate, Dia Xiao, gasses her up and tells her to go confront him. Right on cue, Cui Jing and Dia Xiao pull up to Xiaoyong's apartment to ruin the vibe. Cui Jing goes straight into screaming mode, aggressively accusing Xiaoyong of spending her money. Xiaoyong asks these annoying NPCs what is she even talking about. Xiaoyong says he has plenty of money and he won't spend a single cent on her. While displaying with some cash, Xiaoyong shuts it down and loudly exposes her secret affair with Li Shuxiong. Her friend tries to calm him down by saying it's just a misunderstanding. He completely airs out their discreet hotel bookings right to her face. Then Xiaoyong shuts the door in their dumb faces. Getting exposed with receipts like a crying YouTuber in an apology video leaves Cui Jing absolutely terrified and bewildered. She completely panics and retreats to figure out a new scheme. But her delusion is practically an Olympic sport. Her friend thinks in her mind that since Cui Jing has messed up the situation, so she won't hold back on Xiaoyong. After all, they are good sisters. Although it makes me wonder that these bitches can think. Cut to the newly acquired T-City site, where Xiaoyong is already meeting with Foreman Li of the Paru Construction Company. Xiaoyong is not playing around. He orders standard military-grade defenses. We are talking reinforced walls, guard towers, barbed wire, thickened blast-proof steel doors, and bulletproof tempered glass. Foreman Li does the math and tells him that accelerating this massive build to finish in exactly 1 month will cost 20 million yuan. He needs a 5 million yuan deposit within a week to make it happen. Xiaoyong agrees on the spot and tells them to break ground immediately. Right then on the construction site, Cui Jing's dumb friend appeared trying to act all cute. Xiaoyong is just confused that what the hell is this dumb creature is doing here. She starts sweet-talking Xiaoyong about the beautiful scenery and bats her eyelashes, asking if he plans to build a villa for them. Xiaoyong is completely over it. He coldly brushes her off, leaving her standing there absolutely shell-shocked by his uncharacteristic indifference. She realizes this fallout is a golden opportunity to push Cui Jing aside and secure the land for herself. Honestly, watching these two turn on each other is like watching a TikTok hype house inevitably collapse from within. Back at his apartment, Xiaoyong hits the drawing board to secure more funding. Pawning the house only got him 3 million yuan, which is not going to cut it. So he decides to just sell the property to multiple buyers. It is technically massive real estate fraud, but who cares when the judicial system is going to be eaten by zombies in a month? Suddenly, loud banging rattles his door. It is his absolute menace of a neighbor, Grandpa Li. The old man already owns the first and second floors and has spent months harassing Xiaoyong to sell him the third. He starts yelling, demanding to know if Xiaoyong was out clubbing all night. Fed up with the old man's obnoxious antics, Xiaoyong finally caves. He tells Grandpa Li he will sell the house right now on one non-negotiable condition. 5 million yuan transferred immediately, and Xiaoyong gets to retain full possession of the property for the next 6 months. Grandpa Li practically salivates. He eagerly agrees and insists they draft a contract on the spot. Xiaoyong just smirks and signs the paper. Grandpa Li thinks he just scored the real estate deal of a lifetime, blissfully unaware that property values tend to plummet when your tenants turn into flesh-eating ghouls. With 5 million from the old man and 3 million from his loan, Xiaoyong is sitting on a cozy budget of 8 million yuan. He pulls up the interface and claims his 10 system points for completing the land ownership task. Now the second task pops up called a years of sustenance. Xiaoyong wastes no time. He marches straight down to the Warenfa supermarket to start frantically hoarding supplies. Naturally, the random shoppers start mocking him for buying out the aisles. Laughing at a guy stockpiling groceries is peak pre-disaster energy, completely identical to mocking the people buying extra toilet paper in early 2020. Right, even he is done collecting supplies for several months. A system notification pops up. Apocalypse preparation completed, plus 10 system points. He instantly cashes them in on the protagonist's supply box. The box materializes and drops a level 1 space ring. This beauty grants him 500 cubic meters of pure storage space. The absolute best part is that time literally stands still inside its boundary. He could toss a hot pizza in there and pull it out 5 years later, burning his mouth on the cheese. Then a new task appears on the screen, 10 years of sustenance. The commotion draws the attention of Yang Tao, a hostile former classmate who acts as an underling at the store. Yang Tao rolls up with mall security, acting incredibly tough. He asks Xiaoyong what is he doing with the massive pile of goods. Xiaoyong says that Yang Tao is still just bullying the weak, and states that he is here to buy all these supplies. Yang Tao yells if that's the case then pay right now or else he will be treated rough. The cashiers spend an entire hour tallying up the cart. The grand total hits 56,883 yuan. Yang Tao holds the transaction machine, while Xiaoyong pulls out his card and swipes it. Transaction successful. Just as Yang Tao was leaving, Xiaoyong stops him, and states if Yang Tao won't apologize to him, he will return all the items. Yang Tao goes crazy, but the crowd in the mall warn him that they will make him viral on social media if he doesn't apologize. To sweeten the pot, Xiaoyong promises he will buy 10 times as much inventory if the apology is sincere. Yang Tao doesn't believe him, but Xiaoyong says bring the machine, I will show you my balance. Yang Tao sneers, but the second he scans the card and sees a casual balance of 700,000 yuan, his knees literally buckle. He aggressively bows in pure humiliation, completely changing his tone. Desperate to leech off Xiaoyong's newfound wealth, the cowardly bully immediately offers to connect him with the supermarket supplier, their former classmate turned corrupt wholesaler, Zhang Shengzhe. Moments later, an absurdly flashy luxury car comes screaming up to the front doors, driven with maximum arrogance. Zhang Shengzhe steps out, locking eyes with Xiaoyong and recognizing him as the one classmate who actually showed a bit of backbone back in the day. The tension instantly hits a boiling point. Zhang Shengzhe mocks Xiaoyong for his cheap clothes, then turned to Yang Tao, yelling at him if this is the big client Yang Tao mentioned. Xiaoyong calls Zhang Shengzhe illiterate who looks down upon people. Zhang Shengzhe lunges forward and aggressively grabs Xiaoyong by the collar. Yang Tao completely panics and tries to de-escalate the situation, warning Xiaoyong that Zhang absolutely hates being called illiterate. He threatens outright violence if Xiaoyong does not buy at least a carload of goods right then and there. Xiaoyong casually just asks for his account number and transfers 1 million yuan to Zhang's account. Xiaoyong says he is not there to play around, he wants 5 million worth of supply and he will transfer the other 4 million once he receive his items. Zhang asks what kind of supplies does Xiaoyong need. Xiaoyong demands a genuinely massive quantity of food and drinks. Zhang reluctantly lets go and leads him deep into the warehouse. Zhang's eyes light up with greed. He instantly thinks to dump his entire inventory of near-expiry food on this supposedly clueless buyer. But Xiaoyong does not miss a beat. He actively inspects the pallets, tearing into the stacks to reveal that the entire inner layer consists of nearly expired trash. Honestly, trying to pass off expired goods by hiding them behind the fresh stuff is the exact same energy as a fitness influencer trying to sell you a detox tea. We all know it is garbage. Zhang gives him a massive 50% discount for those nearly expired supplies. Xiaoyong promises to settle the full payment in exactly 1 month. Zhang hesitates, saying what if the items expires and Xiaoyong refuses to pay? Xiaoyong says he mortgage his house, teasing Zhang that in a month expired food will hold more value than ever. Xiaoyong gets a call and leaves in hurry, ordering them to get the delivery ready. Meanwhile, Grandpa Li shows up at Xiaoyong's apartment to deliver a thick stack of cash. It is a 400,000 yuan cash deposit for the third-floor unit, and the old man agrees to let Xiaoyong vacate the place in 3 months. Grandpa Li gets vulnerable for a second, openly admitting that this money is his family's entire 2-generation savings, scraped together just to secure his granddaughter's school residency. Xiaoyong is genuinely touched by the old man's raw honesty. He signs the contract without hesitation. But as Grandpa Li turns to leave, the reality of the impending zombie apocalypse hits Xiaoyong. He knows this kind-hearted family will never survive what is coming. He stops the old man at the door and asks for his exact home address, silently resolving to safeguard them when the world ends. Going from a ruthless scammer to adopting an apocalyptic found family in record time is honestly some serious character growth. Back at the T-City construction site, Foreman Lee delivers some incredibly good news. The heavy reinforcements are already 80% complete. The secure walls are up, the blast-proof steel doors are installed, and a massive warehouse is fully ready for use. Xiaoyong wastes no time. He immediately orders Zhang Shengzhe to deliver the wholesale goods. Just as the supplies arrive, he directs the workers to warehouse, carefully organizes the goods. When it was all done, a system chime goes off in his head. The 10 years of sustenance task is officially complete, instantly awarding him a massive 20 shop points. He pulls up the system store and aggressively drops 10 points on an ability awakening supply box. The box opens, granting him Mind's Eye Level 1. This invaluable ability lets him instantly detect active hostility from anyone nearby. Having a built-in radar for fake friends and absolute haters is honestly the greatest power-up anyone could ask for. Just as the ability settles in, his interface updates again. A new task pops up titled Battle Ready, strictly requiring him to begin arming himself for the inevitable slaughter. Shortly after, Xiaoyong hits up a local late-night black market, a shady spot famous for peddling counterfeit Ma Wangdue historical relics and illegal imports. While navigating the crowded alleys, he spots his absolute worst enemy, Li Shuxiong. The guy is literally purchasing a fake jade bracelet. Xiaoyong just shakes his head, noting that Cui Jing is definitely foolish enough to be completely deceived by such absolute garbage. Buying your apocalypse girlfriend fake jewelry from a night market is honestly a worse investment than buying subscription of a OnlyFans bit. Searching deeper into the market, Xiaoyong finally locates what he actually came for, a covert weapon vendor. To prove he is not just window shopping, He casually transfers a 200,000 yuan deposit directly into the vendor's account. Stunned by the sudden cash drop, the dealer immediately ushers him into a secure private room. The vendor tries to push some cheap homemade firearms and illegally imported QA revolvers, but Xiaoyong flatly rejects the junk. He is not playing around with toy guns. He demands 2 million yuan worth of premium weapons, using his deposit as a 10% prepayment. Suddenly, things take a turn when Xiaoyong runs into Li Shuxiong. Xiaoyong takes this perfect opportunity to test out his newly acquired mind's eye ability. The skill operates completely flawlessly, projecting glowing, color-coded auras right over his targets. The indicators instantly confirm deep, radiating hostility coming from Li Shuxiong. Xiaoyong decides to poke the bear, openly mocking Li Shuxiong for using cheap fakes to trick Cui Jing. A furious Li Shuxiong snaps abuses Xiaoyong. Xiaoyong orders the weapons dealer to take care of him. The weapons dealer and his men beat the living crap out of that trash of a human being. Fast forward 2 days later, and a massive shipment of black market firearms is successfully delivered right to his fortress. A system chime goes off. His battle-ready task is officially complete. The system rewards him with 10 points and a sweet bonus physical enhancement potion. These potions directly alter base biology. Since a standard adult male has a base score of 5, a +2 potion grants a massive 40% increase in pure muscular strength. Xiaoyong immediately downs the bonus potion to boost his physical stats by 2 points. Then he turns around and spends his remaining 20 system points on yet another enhancement potion. With his strength now increased by well over 60% compared to an average male, he casually bends thick solid steel pipes with his bare hands just to flex. Instead of leaving the heavy crates sitting around, Xiaoyong taps into his level 1 space ring. He seamlessly digitizes the entire weapons cache, safely storing the massive crates inside the ring's boundary to preserve precious physical space in his fortress warehouse. Digitizing a literal armory into a piece of jewelry is next-level hoarding, but you have to respect the inventory management. With his fortress armed, his body enhanced, and his supplies secured, Xiaoyong takes a breath. The countdown is almost over. The global apocalypse commences in exactly 2 days. Reflecting on Grandpa Li's vulnerable position, Jiang Xiaoyong decides to do the unthinkable and actually be a decent human being. He plans to deliver a massive stockpile of survival supplies to the old man and his granddaughter as direct repayment for handing over that 5 million yuan. Jiang Xiaoyong casually climbs the stairs to Grandpa Li's modest rented apartment. Before even knocking on the door, he pulls a massive stack of survival supplies straight out of his spatial ring. He wants to have the goods ready and avoid raising any unnecessary suspicion before making his pitch. Grandpa Li swings the door open and immediately starts pleading. He will pay the rent in a week. Xiaoyong looks at the apartment and thinks that this door is good enough to hold zombies in the apocalypse. Then he tells Grandpa Li to listen carefully. If he uses these supplies wisely, it will last them long enough. Xiaoyong then looks at the photo of Shanshan, Grandpa Li's granddaughter. Xiaoyong flashes back to his previous life. He remembers how Grandpa Li tragically died trying to save Shanshan from her besieged school all by himself. Xiaoyong just shakes his head and drops the absolute heaviest truth bomb. He tells the old man that the contract completely does not matter anymore because the entire world is going to turn into a living hell tomorrow. Grandpa Li looks bewildered, probably thinking this kid finally lost his mind. So Xiaoyong decides to just skip the talking phase entirely. He casually rips open a glowing spatial rift right there in the doorway, effortlessly demonstrating his impossible storage abilities. Honestly, opening a literal portal to another dimension in a dingy apartment hallway is the biggest flex since someone bringing a boombox to a silent retreat. With the old man sufficiently stunned, Xiaoyong tells him to get moving. They need to go rescue his granddaughter, Shanshan, from her school right now. Xiaoyong grips the steering wheel and vows to prevent that exact tragedy from happening this time around. They arrive at the high school and the scene is an absolute mess. Shanshan is being violently bullied by a group of vicious classmates. Apparently, they are completely losing their minds with jealousy over a high school boy when the global zombie apocalypse starts in less than 24 hours is some Hulk IQ-level genius. The bullies are literally dragging Shanshan across the floor by her hair. Seeing this, Grandpa Li instantly charges forward to protect his grandbaby. But a couple of armed male students step up and aggressively strike the old man down. That is when Xiaoyong decides playtime is officially over. He steps in, instantly drawing on his newly enhanced physical stats and insane roll reaction speed. Xiaoyong effortlessly catches the bat midair with his bare hand, coldly chiding the kids for their absolute thuggery. Another student panics and lunges forward with a literal knife. Xiaoyong dodges the blade without even breaking a sweat and delivers a devastating, bone-crunching kick. Tapping into his superior reflexes, He seamlessly sweeps through the rest of the remaining bullies. He grabs them and aggressively slams them into the concrete, leaving the entire group battered and groaning on the ground. Getting completely leveled by a guy who just casually caught a bat barehanded is definitely going to ruin their high school reputation, assuming they even survive the weekend. He grabs one of the female bullies by the hair to teach her a lesson, completely ignoring her terrified screams. The lead bully tries to act tough and angrily threatens him, but Xiaoyong simply unleashes his terrifying, dark aura. The sheer intimidation instantly shocks her into absolute silence. Calling for Shanshan and Grandpa Li. Inside Xiaoyong's car, Shanshan is highly skeptical of this entire situation. She starts lecturing Grandpa Li for blindly trusting what she fully believes is a blatant scam. Turning her attitude toward Xiaoyong, she demands to know the truth about his claims of an impending famine. Xiaoyong calmly admits that he completely fabricated the famine story just to help her grandfather understand the urgency. He drops the real truth bomb, casually revealing that an actual zombie apocalypse is imminent. To prove it, he instructs her to pull out her phone and check the news. She clicks on a live broadcast and watches in pure horror as rabid humans violently bite other people in the streets. It is the initial stage of the zombie virus manifesting right on live television. Even with the visual proof, she heavily struggles to accept it. Finding out your apocalypse prep is for flesh-eating zombies instead of a mild food shortage is the ultimate bait and switch. Way worse than realizing your Tinder date uses heavy filters. Xiaoyong coldly warns her that the reality of the situation will soon become completely undeniable. The group suddenly finds themselves trapped in a massive highway gridlock. The early panic is already setting in, with even the emergency lane completely blocked by desperate drivers trying to flee the city. While Grandpa Li starts panicking about zombies catching up to them in traffic, the situation gets worse. An arrogant driver right behind them begins relentlessly honking and aggressively ramming their vehicle trying to cut ahead. Grandpa Li is terrified and pleads with Xiaoyong to avoid a confrontation, terrified of messing with someone who clearly has money. But Xiaoyong does not care about your tax bracket when the world is ending. Tapping into his enhanced physical attributes, his roll reaction speed translates directly into flawless vehicular control. He violently slams his car into the aggressor's vehicle with high precision, completely disabling their engine on the spot. Totaling a rich guy's luxury car just because he merged aggressively is absolute menace behavior, but we love a proactive king. Leaving the wrecked car in the dust, Xiaoyong speeds away. Jiang Xiaoyong pulls into the garage of his newly fortified base. Grandpa Li and Meng Shanshan step out of the car and just look around in absolute awe. Xiaoyong does not give them a single moment to relax, immediately warning them that starting tomorrow, survival is going to be incredibly tough. He points out the massive reinforced concrete walls and the solid steel, remote-controlled gates locking them in. He casually explains that it would take literal heavy weaponry to even put a dent in this place. Shanshan hesitates and nervously asks if they really have to just leave all the other survivors out there to die. Xiaoyong looks at her and drops the cold, hard truth, warning her that human nature becomes highly unpredictable when society collapses. He strictly tells her that having excess pity in an apocalypse will absolutely get them killed. Honestly, setting strict boundaries with people is great, but refusing to let anyone inside your house because they might try to eat your face is just top-tier self-care. He points to an outer container area, designating it as a temporary buffer shelter. He gives them one absolute rule to live by, strictly instructing them to never, ever let outsiders into the main fortress. Moving into the warehouse, Xiaoyong decides to double-check their loyalty and activates his mind's eye. Instead of the red hostile auras from before, glowing green smiley faces pop up right above Grandpa Li and Shanshan. The system completely confirms they have absolute trust in him. Xiaoyong taps his space ring. He instantly materializes his massive weapons cache right out of thin air, completely dropping their jaws. He hands Grandpa Li a literal shotgun and tosses Shanshan a heavy crossbow, fully equipping his new apocalyptic family. Handing a pump-action shotgun to a grandpa who was just trying to buy an apartment yesterday is a wild pivot, but you have to respect the hustle. Suddenly, the apocalypse system chimes in with a brand new task called Former Comrades Volume 1. He needs to track down and rescue his old teammate, Zhang Qi, for a sweet 20 points. A glowing green navigation arrow pops up in his vision, and Xiaoyong immediately leaves the base to go recruit his team. He follows the arrow all the way to a local KTV joint where oblivious college students are currently partying their lives away. Inside KTV room 3090, his former comrade Zhang Qi is celebrating with a classmate named Chun Chong. They step out into the hallway for a second and accidentally bump into some obnoxiously wealthy guy. This arrogant dude instantly snaps, violently kicking Chun Chong to the floor and lifting Zhang Qi right off the ground by his collar. Chun Chong desperately begs for mercy on the floor. Luckily, A noticeably sick KTV employee stumbles over and briefly manages to defuse the tense situation. The employee has a sudden, aggressive cold right after recovering from a stomach flu, which is definitely the zombie virus warming up in the bullpen. The terrified students scramble back into their private room, with Chun Chong frantically urging everyone to just keep their heads down and avoid any more trouble. But the arrogant wealthy man is not done flexing his fragile ego. He violently bursts into their room with a squad of armed thugs, instantly pinning the students down. Chun Chong panics and just asks if he can make a quick phone call to smooth things over. Instead of answering, the wealthy man brutally smashes a heavy glass bottle right over his head. Zhang Qi screams in pure horror as his friend collapses to the floor. Meanwhile, right outside the KTV front doors, Xiaoyong finally arrives, completely prepared to walk in and ruin this rich guy's entire night. Inside KTV room 3090, Zhang Qi and Chun Chong finally decide they have had enough. They bravely try to stand their ground and fight back against the invading thugs. Naturally, they are immediately overpowered and brutally pinned to the floor. Honestly, the sheer confidence of side characters thinking they can win a fistfight without protagonist armor is studying for finals at 3 a.m. levels of delusion. The sick KTV waiter from earlier makes his grand return. His basic cold symptoms of a runny nose and a spinning head rapidly escalate into a full-blown berserk mutation. The guy completely loses it, mutating into a rabid zombie, and lunges straight at a thug wearing a black t-shirt. He viciously sinks his teeth right into the thug's shoulder. Another gang member violently grabs the waiter, desperately trying to pull him off his buddy, but he immediately gets bitten as well. Talk about a drastic drop in customer service quality. Exactly at that horrifying moment, Zhang Xiaoyong kicks the door and bursts into the room. He instantly clocks the threat, stepping up behind the zombie waiter and grabbing him directly by the back of the neck. Using his massively enhanced physical stats, Xiaoyong casually lifts the fully grown adult with just one hand. He brutally slams the zombie's head straight into the giant television screen, shattering the glass into a million pieces. Glancing down, Xiaoyong spots terrifying black veins already aggressively spreading across the bitten thug's neck. He instantly realizes the infection is fatal and the mutation is going to happen almost immediately. Moving with zero hesitation, Xiaoyong picks up the dazed zombie waiter and literally tosses him straight out into the bathroom. He slams the heavy door shut, locking it tight to block zombie outside. He easily exploits the one saving grace of early-stage zombies, which is that they literally lack the brain cells to operate a basic door handle. Being outsmarted by a piece of metal is tragic, but we love a low IQ apocalypse. With the door fully secured and the immediate viral threat locked outside, Xiaoyong slowly turns his attention to the remaining hostile gang members. He flexes his superior physical stats and martial arts prowess, completely unleashing on them. He swiftly and ruthlessly beats the remaining bad guys into the floor, catching bodies like an absolute raid boss. With the thugs entirely neutralized, he easily rescues Zhang Qi and his friends from the wreckage of the room. Zhang Xiaoyong firmly instructs Zhang Qi to wait outside KTV room 3090. As they step into the hallway, the thug leader tries to quickly slip away with his female companion. Xiaoyong instantly blocks his path, yelling that his arrogant little stunt just moments ago almost got his friend killed. Xiaoyong violently shoves the thug leader straight back into the infected room and slams the heavy door shut. Trapping the guy who started the fight inside a room full of flesh-eating zombies is exactly the level of petty karma I need in my life. Instantly, absolutely terrifying screams of pure agony and frantic banging echo out into the hallway. A KTV staff member wanders over and asks if they need any help. Xiaoyong casually warns the guy that it is just a really bad case of the rabid flu. He helpfully suggests they lock the door completely first, and then call emergency services right away. The staff members secure the lock and head to the security desk to check the live surveillance feed. They stare at the monitors, completely frozen in absolute shock as they watch the horrifying viral outbreak unfold on screen. We jump straight to Xiaoyong's car, where he is driving his rescued friend far away from the collapsing city center. While they frantically discuss the literal end of the world, they look out the window and witness a fully infected person violently leap straight onto a nearby moving vehicle. The zombie infection features a terrifyingly stealthy incubation period before causing a rapid, violent mental and physical mutation. Honestly, seeing a rabid guy parkour onto a sedan in city traffic is just a standard Tuesday commute. But this is still a bad sign. Inside the quiet car, the apocalypse system suddenly chimes in to announce the completion of the former partner task, awarding Xiaoyong a sweet 20 points. He hits the system store and immediately redeems 3 crucial supply boxes for 2 points apiece. He scores the post-apocalyptic cultivator box, the sugar, oil, and protein box, and the highly necessary armed deterrence box. Glancing at the students in the rearview mirror, Xiaoyong suddenly recalls a grim memory from his previous life. He remembers that Zhang Qi's entire dormitory was completely wiped out by zombies, all because one of his trusted friends betrayed them. Zhang Qi ended up being the sole survivor of that absolute massacre. Realizing he has no idea exactly which classmate is the hidden traitor, Xiaoyong knows he desperately has to resolve this massive trust issue before it gets them all killed. Meanwhile, the scene abruptly cuts over to Cui Jing's apartment. She and Dia Xiao are watching their neighbor get dragged away by an ambulance, finally realizing that the rabid flu rumors are 100% real. Dia Xiao immediately starts complaining about Li Shuxiong and his totally undelivered supplies. Cui Jing smirks and instructs her to get Li Shuxiong on the phone right now. She proudly reveals that her personal lackeys actually tracked massive supply trucks all the way to Xiaoyong's abandoned factory before the pandemic fully collapsed local society. She outlines a greedy, arrogant plot to have Li Shuxiong forcefully seize the massive warehouse stockpile. Of course, she fully demands a heavy cut of the profits for providing the intel. Zhang Xiaoyong's vehicle pulls up to the base, and Zhang Qi is immediately blown away by the massive, fortified design. Xiaoyong does not waste any time, introducing the newcomers to Shang Bo, formerly known as Grandpa Li and Shanshan. The two of them warmly welcome the battered students inside the safe walls. Shang Bo takes charge of showing the group around the compound, while the severely injured Chen Chong is carefully moved into the secure infirmary. Yiming, one of the classmates, immediately asks Xiaoyong if they can be issued weapons. His friend quickly pulls him back, warning him that they definitely need to earn some serious trust before asking for weapons. Later on, while the students are finally getting some rest, Yiming starts spiraling into paranoia. He argues that they are basically just captives here. He goes completely off the deep end, suggesting the secure infirmary is actually just a front for Xiaoyong to harvest Chen Chong's organs, and eventually all of theirs. Yiming does not stop there, proposing a full-blown plan to take over the fortress by force while Xiaoyong is out. He even drops a totally creepy remark about Shanshan, completely disgusting Zhang Qi and their other companion. Realizing he totally misread the room and went way too far, Yiming nervously laughs it all off as just a dark joke. But internally, he secretly resolves to betray his naive companions anyway, planning to turn them into his personal lackeys the second he successfully seizes the base. Following their conversation, Shang Bo and Shanshan meet up with Xiaoyong down in the warehouse. Shang Bo gives a quick status report, confirming that Chen Chong is settled in the infirmary and that every single door and window is tightly locked. Xiaoyong thanks Shang Bo and advises both of them to go get some much-needed rest. But just as they turn to leave, Xiaoyong stops them to deliver a chilling warning. He tells them to be especially careful around Zhang Qi's other two classmates, operating on a strong hunch that one of them has a dangerous rebellious streak and could betray them all. Left completely alone in the warehouse, Xiaoyong opens the system store and redeems 3 highly anticipated supply boxes for 2 points each. The post-apocalyptic cultivator box drops 50 corn seeds, setting him up for long-term farming. The sugar, oil, and protein box hooks him up with starch sausages, preserved pork, and pickled mustard noodles. Finally, the armed deterrence box grants a massive payload of 1,500 rounds of ammunition. Stockpiling pickled noodles and 1,500 bullets is the ultimate apocalypse diet, carb loading for the end of the world while staying heavily strapped. Just as things seem secure inside, a massive gang of hostile thugs violently arrives right outside the base. Having successfully tracked the address, the arrogant leader orders his men to smash the solid steel gate wide open. They quickly realize the gate is completely impenetrable to brute force. Furious, the boss orders his men to stop messing around and bring out the heavy gear. They unleash an absolute barrage of lit Molotov cocktails, violently hurling the firebombs until the massive steel gates are completely engulfed in raging flames. Shanshan frantically screams and carries a bucket of water while the others desperately grab a massive tub to douse the flames. As she fights the blaze, reality completely crashes down on her, and she finally realizes Xiaoyong was absolutely right about how swiftly society would collapse into pure chaos. Meanwhile, Xiaoyong and Shang Bo scale the heavy watchtower. Shang Bo peers over the edge and immediately recognizes the attackers below. It is the exact same arrogant group that aggressively provoked them on the highway earlier. Down in the dirt, the thug boss arrogantly demands that Xiaoyong surrender immediately, threatening to completely burn the stronghold to the ground if they resist. Rolling up to a reinforced military bunker with glass bottles of gasoline and demanding a surrender is the kind of unearned confidence you usually only see from crypto bros with a podcast microphone. Xiaoyong is completely unfazed and coldly gives them a 5-minute warning to pack up and get lost. Instead of listening, the arrogant thugs just sneer and start preparing to hurl even more firebombs at the gate. Right on cue, the apocalypse system triggers a brand new task called Ordinary Threat, promising a solid 10 points for successfully eliminating the attackers. Shang Bo nervously suggests firing a warning shot to scare them off without unnecessary bloodshed. Xiaoyong completely rejects the idea of a warning and instantly fires his rifle, brutally shattering the boss's hand in a spray of blood. The thugs absolutely panic, dropping their weapons as they scramble to retreat toward their vehicle. Xiaoyong does not hesitate, unleashing a highly lethal, relentless burst of automatic fire that violently guns down several screaming henchmen on the spot. Refusing to let the survivors escape, he smoothly hip-fires with terrifying military precision, completely shredding their getaway SUV and leaving it smoking in ruins. Shang Bo stands frozen on the tower, watching in absolute awe of Xiaoyong's flawless, professional combat accuracy. Instead of heading out to clear the bodies, Xiaoyong casually decides to just leave the dead thugs exactly where they are. He plans to let them reanimate into zombies so Zhangqi and Shanshan can use them for live target practice later. Turning your failed home invaders into reusable, free-range target practice is eco-friendly king behavior, and we absolutely love a sustainable apocalypse. Meanwhile, just down the road, Li Shuxiong drives the ever-delusional Cui Jing and her friend Xiaoya into the vicinity. Li Shuxiong safely parks the car nearby to coordinate his backup, while the two girls head toward the factory on foot. Xiaoya immediately starts complaining about walking through the dirt in her high heels, but Cui Jing aggressively drags her along, completely obsessed with her plan to reclaim total control over Xiaoyong. As they blindly approach the site, they freeze in pure shock. They discover the smoking wreckage of the SUV and a road completely littered with bullet-ridden, bloody corpses. Xiaoya is utterly terrified and begs to head back to safety immediately. But Cui Jing's delusion is truly unmatched. She instantly assumes Xiaoyong must have been killed in the shootout and eagerly urges Xiaoya to sneak closer. She wants to check if the factory gate is unlocked so they can just casually walk in and claim his massive stockpile of supplies for themselves. Cui Jing and Wenshuya creep up to the fortress, only to find the massive steel gate tightly shut. Up on the watchtower, Shanshan immediately spots the two intruders and aims her heavy crossbow straight down at them. Down below, Cui Jing boldly shouts up, claiming to be Xiaoyong's loving girlfriend, while Wenshuya nervously eyes the deadly weapon pointed at her head. Cui Jing whispers a reassurance, promising that Li Shuxiong's hidden pistols can easily handle Xiaoyong the second he is dumb enough to open the gate. Up on the balcony, Xiaoyong steps out to join Shanshan and immediately activates his Eye of Insight. The ability instantly projects glowing red icons of pure malice right above the two girls' heads. Seeing the absolute hostility, he completely rejects Cui Jing's fake concern and loudly asks exactly where Li Shuxiong and his armed men are hiding. Completely stunned that her ambush is ruined, Cui Jing arrogantly demands entry anyway. Xiaoyong responds by aiming his rifle and firing a warning shot directly at her feet. She glares up defiantly, screaming and asking if he actually dares to shoot her. Xiaoyong looks down coldly and replies that killing them himself would just be way too easy, choosing instead to let them die at the hands of the oncoming undead. Right on cue, the bullet-ridden bodies of the highway thugs suddenly twitch, their corpses rising from the dirt as fully mutated zombies. Airborne pathogens are no joke, rapidly reanimating any deceased hosts in the area into violent monsters. Watching the dead rise in the rearview mirror, a completely terrified Li Shuxiong slams on the gas, abandoning the girls and driving away as fast as possible. Leaving your apocalypse girlfriend to get eaten while you speed off in a sedan is a jerk behavior, but again, why would anyone care about these bitches? Absolute panic sets in. Cui Jing scrambles backward, fleeing right behind Wenshuya. In a move of pure, ruthless cowardice, Cui Jing desperately throws her heavy handbag directly at her best friend's feet. Wenshuya trips over the bag and violently crashes face-first into the dirt. The swarm of fresh zombies instantly pounces, tearing into her as she screams agonizing curses at Cui Jing. As her friend is eaten alive, Cui Jing runs away, heartlessly thinking to herself that Wenshuya completely deserved to die anyway. With the immediate threat eliminated, Xiaoyong's system chimes in, awarding him 10 points and issuing a brand new task called Silent Storm. The task requires him to clear out local mutants and start gathering more supplies. Shanshan stands on the balcony, watching the absolute bloody carnage in total horror, as Xiaoyong casually explains the airborne pathogens, rapidly reanimating the dead. Back inside the safety of the fortress, Xiaoyong gathers Shang Bo, Zhangqi and his friends for a mandatory quarantine meeting. He strictly instructs the group to stay entirely indoors, firmly seal all openings, minimize any risk of mutation. But Zhangqi is standing frozen in deep worry about Chun Chong. Chun Chong in the infirmary is lying in bed with terrifying, dark purple veins aggressively spreading up his arm, neck and head. Somewhere in a secure apartment, Zhang Shengzhe is pacing around, trying to figure out a solid plan to retrieve his remaining warehouse stocks. He turns to his wife, Xiaoli, and their young son, strictly instructing them to keep the heavy door locked no matter what happens. But that illusion of safety is violently shattered just seconds later. His former associate, Yang Tao, orchestrates a brutal, violent break-in. Yang Tao and his gang of thugs easily overpower Zhang, taking his entirely innocent family hostage right in their own living room. Zhang furiously confronts his former underling, screaming about his blatant betrayal and complete lack of a human conscience. But Yang Tao just coldly dismisses their entire history, demanding the keys to the massive wholesale warehouse. Yang Tao violently grabs Xiaoli by her hair, pulling her back. Seeing his mom in danger, Zhang's young son, Zhe, fearlessly lunges forward and sinks his teeth right into Yang Tao's hand. Biting the home invader during a literal zombie apocalypse is a bold strategy, but you have to respect the kid's raw defensive energy. Zhang screams in pure panic, desperately demanding they let go of his wife and child. Yang Tao smirks, promising that as long as Zhang completely cooperates and leads them straight to the warehouse, his precious family will survive. Fast forward to the warehouse, and the massive doors swing open to reveal absolutely nothing. The place is completely, utterly empty. Yang Tao stands there doing the math, quickly recognizing that Zhang Xiaoyong cleared out almost all the inventory right before the world ended. He instantly suspects that Xiaoyong somehow knew about the impending disaster in advance. Realizing Xiaoyong is sitting on a mountain of resources, Yang Tao immediately pivots, plotting a violent raid to seize the massive stock at the factory to secure their own survival. Planning a raid on a military-grade fortress with a couple of thugs and a stolen key ring is fumbling your survival odds harder than a horror movie character splitting up to investigate a strange noise. To force total cooperation, Yang Tao threatens Zhang again, demanding he help them trade Xiaoyong's supplies for his family's continued safety. Meanwhile, back at the secure fortress infirmary, the atmosphere is incredibly tense. Chun Chong's terrifying zombie mutation is rapidly progressing, with those dark purple veins aggressively taking over his body. The virus is completely irreversible once a host is infected, causing rapid physical decay and extreme aggression. Zhang Xiaoyong stands there completely stone-faced. He turns to the incredibly paranoid Yiming and coldly instructs him to finish his classmate off. Xiaoyong literally hands Yiming a steel dagger, casually questioning if the guy has not always wanted a weapon of his own. Before Yiming can even process the horrifying request, Zhang Qi steps in. Unable to watch his friend suffer and mutate, Zhang Qi reaches out and takes the heavy dagger for himself. He looks down at his mutating friend and firmly declares that he will be the one to do it. Xiaoyong decides to give Zhang Qi one final, brutal loyalty test. He warns him that if he strikes Chun Chong down right now, it officially makes him a real murderer. Zhang Qi doesn't even hesitate, declaring his absolute trust in Xiaoyong, and completely commits to the swing, attempting to stab his mutating friend. But right before the blade connects, Xiaoyong catches Zhang Qi's hand mid-swing. He casually orders the rest of the group to step back, explaining that Chun Chong actually has a very special condition and is still highly useful to him. A system notification just pinged in Xiaoyong's vision, alerting him that Chun Chong is actually a rare mutated specimen. Refusing to put down your infected friend because the system flagged him as a rare collectible is peak Pokemon trainer behavior, and we honestly respect the grind. Once everyone clears the room, Xiaoyong leans right over the bound, aggressively roaring zombie. He looks Chun Chong dead in the eyes and whispers that he has a very important task for him. Meanwhile, out on the chaotic streets, Zhang Shengzhe violently crashes his car and is forced to flee on foot. He doesn't make it far before a stray zombie ambushes him from the shadows, viciously sinking its teeth right into his left forearm. Adrenaline spikes, and Zhang Shengzhe grabs a heavy crowbar, brutally beating the infected monster to death in the middle of the road. Fully infected and living on borrowed time, he just starts walking straight toward Xiaoyong's base. Honestly, walking miles to your enemy's fortress after getting fatally infected is the ultimate will test. Later that day, Xiaoyong decides it is time for a field trip and leads his newly formed team out of the safety of the fortress. Shanshan immediately starts complaining that their thick hand protective gear is super uncomfortable. Xiaoyong shuts that down instantly, explaining that the explosive, unpredictable power of mindless zombies makes heavy safety gear absolutely mandatory for beginners. As they cautiously step into the sensing range of the wandering rovers, Xiaoyong orders everyone to prepare for live combat. He strictly instructs them to always watch each other's backs and exclusively target the zombie's head or the back of the neck. Xiao Kai steps up to the plate and violently strikes a zombie directly on the top of its skull. The blunt strike does absolutely zero damage, instantly numbing Xiao Kai's hand from the heavy impact. Targeting the literal thickest, Most durable bone on a monster's body during your first fight is dumbest thing you can do. Xiaoyong casually points at Xiao Kai, loudly announcing to the group that this is a flawless example of exactly what not to do. The enraged zombie immediately counters the failed strike. Xiao Kai panics, desperately blocking the attack and screaming for help. Surprisingly, Xiaoyong praises his quick defensive block and sends Zhang Qi in to assist. Zhang Qi easily secures the kill and happily turns around, asking Xiaoyong how they performed. Suddenly, a feral zombie violently ambushes Xiaoyong directly from behind. Zhang Qi screams a panicked warning, but Xiaoyong doesn't even flinch. He effortlessly catches the monster's snapping face with just one hand like a Chad, stopping it dead in its tracks. He looks at his stunned team and casually reminds them to never, ever stop observing their immediate surroundings. Catching a rabid monster by the face while delivering a calm tactical lecture is the exact kind of overpowered protagonist energy we signed up for. Not too far away, a battered Zhang Shengzhe is watching from the distance. He spots Xiaoyong's team and is completely shocked to see them actively hunting rovers in broad daylight like it is a casual sport. But before he can even take a step toward them, he is violently ambushed from his blind spot. He gets viciously dragged down to the pavement by a feral female zombie. And in the ultimate, brutal twist of fate, the monster tearing into him is none other than Cui Jing's betrayed best friend. When Shuya, Zhang Xiaoyong raises his gun and casually blows away the feral zombie attacking Zhang Shengzhe. But instead of offering a helping hand, he keeps the barrel pointed right at the wholesaler's head. Instantly realizing the guy has already been bitten, he bursts into tears, begging Xiaoyong to just listen to him for 1 second before pulling the trigger. Shengzhe spills everything, explaining that the cowardly Yang Tao has taken his innocent family hostage just to force an ambush and steal Xiaoyong's massive supply stash. He violently sobs, warning that his wife and kid will face a fate way worse than his own mutation if they are not rescued. He begs Xiaoyong to save them as a final repayment for his past help with the warehouse stockpiling. Motivated by his past assistance, and briefly noting that the fortress's gender ratio is heavily skewed, Xiaoyong suddenly gets a prompt. The system activates a brand new rescue mission called Protect the Family, dangling a sweet 25 points. Xiaoyong nods and coldly promises to handle the situation. Shengzhe drops his head and begs Xiaoyong to just end his life right there to stop the mutation. Instead of giving him a quick out, Xiaoyong turns to Shanshan and orders her to fetch a literal bicycle. He commands the mutating man to hop on the bike and pedal himself out to an isolated area far away from the base. Shengzhe actually listens, weeping for his family, as he frantically pedals down the street, while his terrifying biological transformation begins. Forcing a guy to commute to his own zombie mutation on a 10-speed bike is the most eco-friendly apocalypse execution of all time. Back with the team, they finish burning the dead zombies in a pile, successfully completing their cleanup mission. Xiaoyong gathers them around, explaining that while they can easily style on single zombies, massive hordes remain way too dangerous to mess with. Preparing to head into the ruined city completely alone, Xiaoyong tosses the crucial storage and weapon keys directly to Grandpa Li. His newly trained comrades instantly offer to tag along and fight, but Xiaoyong flat out rejects them, looking them in the eye and calling them a complete burden. Getting benched because the squad leader thinks you are dead weight is tough, but it definitely beats getting eaten alive in the streets. He charges Grandpa Li with the absolute defense of the fortress and speeds off in his vehicle. While driving, Xiaoyong starts manually refreshing the system store, completely unfazed that the point cost increases with every fresh. He finally rolls exactly what he wants, purchasing a level 1 black tech supply box. He rips it open to find an ultra-rare +5 physical enhancement potion and injects it immediately. The powerful consumable permanently upgrades his physical attributes completely past normal human limits. His updated status screen shows his base stats sitting at a monstrous 18, absolutely dwarfing the standard human baseline of 10, right alongside his space ring and mind's eye abilities. Blowing all your hard-earned currency on manual store refreshes just to get a massive stat boost is peak gacha gamer behavior, and it is absolutely paying off. Meanwhile, back at Shengzhe's apartment, time has officially run out. Yang Tao and his scummy thugs violently break straight into the room, completely ignoring the terrified mother's desperate pleas as they aggressively grab her. Inside the apartment, the thugs violently assault Xiaoli until Li suddenly intervenes. He orders the thugs to back off and release her, laying down some cold, tactical logic. He explains that pushing Xiaoli to suicide would leave her husband with absolutely nothing to lose, risking a bloody fight to the death that none of them want. He decides they will simply return for her after dealing with her husband first. The thugs reluctantly agree, pulling back and leaving the terrified mother and child huddled together as they withdraw to search the place for supplies. Meanwhile, Xiaoyong is cruising toward the city center, completely enjoying his newly enhanced reaction time and flawless vehicular control. Wanting to avoid drawing any unnecessary attention from massive hordes, he smartly ditches the car and proceeds on foot. A pack of rovers immediately attacks him in the open street. Xiaoyong effortlessly dodges their rabid strikes and smoothly slices right through them with his sword. He quickly realizes that his strength, reflexes, and sensory insight have vastly improved. His physical attributes now more than double those of an average human. Thanks to his heavily upgraded stats, his enhanced auditory insight picks up the distinct sounds of a struggle about 800 meters away. Right on cue, the system triggers a brand new encounter mission. Nearby, things are looking incredibly grim. Captain Li, Old Song, and a young kid named Zishuan are completely cornered by rovers inside a supermarket. They frantically barricade the entrance with heavy objects. As the rovers violently batter the glass storefront, Zishuan breaks down crying in pure fear. Old Song tries to comfort his son but completely ruins the vibe by bringing up their impending death, forcing Captain Li to scold Old Song instead for being so negative. Telling a crying kid about the sweet release of death while zombies bash their faces against a grocery store window is absolute parenting energy as an Asian parent. Suddenly, the group hears a strange noise outside. Captain Li orders Old Song and Zishuan to quietly move the heavy barricades so he can go check it out. Stepping outside, they are shocked to find a pile of freshly dead rovers. Zishuan instantly insists that a mutant did this, explaining that mutants are way faster and stronger than standard zombies. When asked how he knows that, Zishuan freely admits he learned it all from reading novels, playing games, and reading comics. Old Song completely loses it, yelling at his son and blaming those exact hobbies for his terrible school grades. Captain Li steps in and shuts the dad down, bluntly telling him he has absolutely zero emotional intelligence. A chime goes off in Xiaoyong's head. The system awards him 5 sweet points for completing the encounter rescue mission, bumping his current total up to 11 points. The surviving trio suddenly spots Xiaoyong in front of them. Zishuan panics, mistaking him for a mutant, but Xiaoyong immediately shatters that illusion by casually speaking to them. Being mistaken for a superpowered zombie because you are just standing there menacingly in a ruined supermarket is peak protagonist aura. Relieved to see a normal human, Captain Li is thrilled to find a lone survivor out in the wild. He proudly flashes his gun, boasting about his firearm and extensive survival experience, and generously offers Xiaoyong his protection. Xiaoyong plays along, inquiring about their group. Captain Li explains they are out gathering supplies and plan to head back to their civilian base at Rongxiang Garden, mentioning there are other survivors there as well. Xiaoyong subtly confirms the location, asking if it is situated directly across the street from Jinyu Mansion. Old Song nods and confirms the exact spot. Captain Li formally offers Xiaoyong a spot in their group, promising to protect him and safely escort him to the base. Xiaoyong just smiles, accepts the offer, and tells him thanks a lot. Xiaoyong casually strolls down the ruined streets with Captain Li and his ragged group of survivors. When they ask if his trip out to Jinyu Mansion is to find someone important, Xiaoyong gives a quick nod to confirm it. Old Song immediately kills the mood, bluntly warning him that his target is probably already dead. Captain Li chimes in, making things even bleaker by mentioning a group of utterly ruthless thugs currently holed up in the Biu Mountain Villa. He explains that these guys make it a habit to actively hunt and execute other survivors just for fun. Honestly, starting a post-apocalyptic turf war when we literally just lost running water shows you are running on a single brain cell. Suddenly, a zombie violently ambushes the group. Captain Li draws his weapon and drops one with a clean shot, but the loud gunfire instantly echoes through the quiet streets. It immediately attracts a massive, terrifying horde of infected. Realizing they are completely cornered, Captain Li frantically spots an abandoned blue bus nearby and screams for everyone to get inside for defense. Inside the bus, Captain Li is desperately struggling to pull the heavy doors shut against the swarming horde. Without breaking a sweat, Xiaoyong steps up and effortlessly slams the steel doors shut using only a single hand. Captain Li is completely shocked by the insane display of raw, superhuman physical power. Xiaoyong does not give him a second to process it, casually suggesting they just smash the windows and fight the horde head-on. Captain Li starts sweating, panicking because his handgun barely has any ammunition left for a prolonged firefight. Right as the panic sets in, Xiaoyong reaches into his space ring and pulls out a massive, heavy combat crossbow. He hands it directly to Captain Li, keeping a straight face and claiming he just casually found it lying around earlier. Finding military-grade artillery casually sitting on the sidewalk is some heavy main character luck, but you do not question a free weapon drop in the apocalypse. They hold the line, brutally clearing out the zombies until the streets are finally quiet. As they step out of the blood-soaked bus, Young Zixuan is already beating a zombie's skull in, smugly remarking that it is no coincidence they survived because they are clearly the children of fate. Meanwhile, back at the secure fortress, things are taking a very dark turn. Yiming aggressively steps up and volunteers to pull guard duty for the entire night. Xiao Kai raises an eyebrow, questioning why he is suddenly so incredibly eager to work. Yiming instantly snaps at him, viciously telling him to mind his own business. Grandpa Li steps in, completely misreading the room. He warmly commends Yiming for his bravery and dismisses the rest of the exhausted team to get some rest. He gives Yiming one simple instruction, telling him to stay vigilant and wake them up immediately if anything goes wrong. But late that night, the absolute worst-case scenario unfolds. Trusting the guy who was literally plotting to molest your grandchild yesterday, and to give him guard duty is messing with your base defense harder than I used to do in Clash of Clans. Under the cover of total darkness, Yiming quietly sneaks right into Grandpa Li's bedroom while the old man sleeps. He is fully committed to his betrayal, coldly plotting to steal the weapons storage key and execute his violent takeover before Xiaoyong ever makes it back. And the absolute worst-case scenario officially pops off. Grandpa Li suddenly wakes up and catches Lu Yiming red-handed trying to steal the weapons key. Instead of playing it cool, Yiming just straight up punches the elderly man right in the face and books it down the corridor. Punching a senior citizen who gave you a free place to sleep during the apocalypse is exactly the kind of bitch behavior that gets you cancelled in any timeline. Shanshan, Zhang Qi, and Xiao Kai hear the commotion and immediately give chase. Desperate to create a distraction, Yiming sprints straight into the infirmary to unleash the mutating Chun Chong. But he is completely horrified to discover that Chun Chong's restraint bandages are already loose, and the fully turned zombie is highly aggressive. The pursuing group arrives just in time to witness Yiming's sheer recklessness. Because this absolute clown stole the warehouse key, they are completely deprived of their weapons and forced to fight a rabid monster barehanded. Zhang Qi heroically steps up and violently tackles Chen Chong directly from behind. With Xiao Kai and Shanshan jumping in to help, the three of them desperately wrestle the thrashing zombie back into the room and slam the door shut. Wrestling your mutated best friend back into a hospital bed is definitely not how anyone expected to spend their weekend. But just as they catch their breath, Yiming suddenly ambushes them from the shadows. He is holding a scoped rifle that he just swiped from the armory. Holding the entire group at gunpoint, he coldly orders them to march into a back room. Zhang Qi furiously confronts him, screaming at him for betraying the literal savior who pulled them out of hell. Yiming bitterly retorts that Xiaoyong's high and mighty attitude will only turn them all into lifelong slaves. Grandpa Li spits back, condemning Yiming as a wolf that can never be tamed. Yiming completely ignores the old man. But inside the locked infirmary, the rare mutated specimen Chen Chong is quietly watching and listening to every single word of this betrayal. Meanwhile, back in the ruined city, Xiaoyong finally approaches the final intersection before Jinyu Mansion. Captain Li stops him and delivers a grim warning, explaining that the complex layout ahead is absolutely ideal for hidden rovers to ambush him. He advises Xiaoyong to safely return to the Rongxiang Garden Community Building 3 via the side gate once he finds his people. Xiaoyong thanks him for the intel and heads straight into the pitch-black community, where the power is totally out, cell signals are dead, and rovers are everywhere. Watching him walk into the darkness, Old Song starts feeling deeply guilty about letting the kid go in alone. Captain Li immediately shuts that down, bluntly stating that following him into a potential zombie horde would just be pure suicide. Inside the mansion, things are getting incredibly dark. Yang Tao and his scummy thugs automatically assume Shengzhe is already dead and start violently plotting to assault his terrified wife. They casually discuss sick plans to tie her up just so she cannot commit suicide during the attack. Being this utterly evil when the world is literally ending makes me wonder if they are bigger monsters than those zombies. But right as these absolute monsters prepare to make their move, one of them glances out the window. He freezes, completely stunned to see the entire courtyard absolutely littered with freshly slaughtered zombies. Xiaoyong has officially breached the residential complex, and he is coming for blood. We cut to one of the thugs who just spotted the pile of dead zombies outside the mansion. He wanders over to the door to check if someone is staging a rescue attempt. He doesn't even get to finish his thought before he is instantly beheaded right at the threshold. Inside Jinyu Mansion, the situation is absolutely sickening. The thugs are brutally abusing Xiaoli, relentlessly threatening her with violence. Her young son, Zhe, bravely steps up to defend his mom, warning the goons that his father will absolutely never forgive them. One of the heartless thugs just laughs and violently strikes the kid straight to the ground. Suddenly, little Zhe looks up and sees a terrifying silhouette looming in the doorway. He freezes in fear, but the shadow steps forward, revealing it is just Xiaoyong. Xiaoyong looks down at the bruised kid and casually asks if his dad is Zhang. She nods yes. Inside the main room, Yang Tao and his scummy men are still aggressively beating Xiaoli. Without a second of hesitation, Xiaoyong violently kicks the heavy door wide open. The thug closest to the door turns around and actually thinks the kid kicked it open, casually remarking that the boy has some serious leg strength. Right as the thug finishes his sentence, his head is instantly sliced clean off his shoulders, matching his buddy at the front door. Yang Tao stands there completely confused. Suddenly, a massive hand clamps directly onto his forehead. Xiaoyong effortlessly lifts Yang Tao and violently throws him completely across the room like a discarded rag doll. Using his physically enhanced strength, Xiaoyong delivers an immense, blunt force kick that instantly neutralizes the last remaining thug. Meanwhile, back at the supposedly secure fortress, the betrayal is in full swing. Yiming is holding the unarmed survivors hostage at gunpoint, aggressively demanding they move into the back room. Grandpa Li quietly whispers to the terrified group, telling them to just do as he says for now while he tries to quickly think of a plan. Sensing their hesitation, Yiming sneers. He arrogantly decides he needs to establish his absolute dominance through ruthless decisiveness. He aims his stolen rifle right at the old man, preparing to execute him on the spot. But right before Yiming can pull the trigger, a chilling metallic clanking echoes from the infirmary. To everyone's absolute disbelief, the door handle turns. Chun Chong actually manages to use the key to unlock the heavy door all by himself. The system wasn't lying. Chun Chong exhibits a rare, advanced state of zombie cognitive mutation, retaining the motor skills required to actually operate a physical key. Recognizing the massive, terrifying threat of a zombie that can literally unlock doors, Yiming panics. He aims his gun right at the mutating monster and pulls the trigger. Click. The weapon completely jams, leaving this absolute clown completely defenseless. Chun Chong lunges forward with terrifying speed, viciously mauling Yiming as the traitor screams desperately for help. The rest of the survivors stand completely frozen, watching in absolute horror. They watch Yiming get violently dragged down to the floor by the mutated creature, utterly stunned by Chun Chong's sudden, terrifying display of intelligence. Chun Chong drags Yiming inside the infirmary, locks the door and throws the key outside, stunning everyone. Inside Jinyu Mansion, Zhang Xiaoyong stands menacingly over the bound and battered thugs. He looks down at Zhang Shengzhe's young son, Zhe, and coldly calls the kid forward. Despite Xiaoli desperately pleading for her son's innocence, Xiaoyong literally hands the young boy a heavy combat dagger. He looks the kid dead in the eye and declares that from now on, only he can protect his mother. Xiaoyong commands him to gather his courage right now and execute these beasts. Forcing a literal child to catch a body for character development is peak anime energy, but you honestly cannot argue with the results. Stealing his resolve through heavy tears, the young boy lets out a raw scream and violently stabs the thugs. Panting over the bleeding bodies, he is quickly embraced by his sobbing mother, who affectionately calls him Xiao Shui. He looks up with wide eyes and asks Xiaoyong if his father is really dead. Upon hearing the brutal truth, Xiao Shui drops the bloody dagger and just weeps endlessly into his mother's arms. Xiaoyong escorts the traumatized duo outside, walking right past a massive, gory pile of slaughtered rovers. When the boy stares at the battlefield of clean cuts and wonders aloud what kind of powerful, terrifying creature could have done this, Xiaoyong simply replies that he did. Flexing your solo KD ratio to a newly orphaned kid is objectively hilarious. Xiaoyong then turns to Xiaoli and asks for exact directions to Building 8 over in Banyan Garden. Meanwhile, over at Banyan Garden, things are going terribly. Captain Li and his civilian survivor group are completely cornered inside Building 8 by 7 heavily armed thugs. The arrogant thugs are outside aggressively demanding they surrender all their supplies and hand over every single woman under the age of 40. Inside the building, panic spreads like wildfire among the trapped survivors. Captain Li firmly warns everyone that these thugs are absolute beasts who will spare no one, except maybe Yu Yueran and Hao Fong. He sharply instructs his crew to hold the line and guard the hallway while he keeps a close monitor on the stairs. Outside, the thug leader orders his men to cut off the building's water supply to slowly force them out. Trying to siege an apartment complex by turning off the tap water is just dumb. Just kick the door in. Seriously, feed that man to the zombies. Watching this entire standoff from a safe distance, young Xiao Shui looks up and asks Xiaoyong if these people are bad. Xiaoyong nods, confirming they are the exact same type of absolute bullies who just targeted him and his mother. Suddenly, a devastating, explosive attack rips right through the courtyard, instantly shooting down one of the thugs. The terrified survivors inside hear the massive blast echo through the walls. The remaining thugs outside completely panic, looking around wildly and demanding to know exactly who is out there in the shadows. Captain Lee carefully peeks outside through the barricades. His jaw drops as he sees Xiaoyong casually walking straight toward the building, gun in hand, ruthlessly shooting the thugs down one by one like a complete raid boss. Inside Banyan Garden, an absolute shootout explodes into chaos. Xiaoyong steps into the crossfire and systematically drops the thugs one after another like he is speedrunning a tutorial level. The last remaining thug hides behind cover with a handgun, foolishly assuming Xiaoyong is out of ammunition. He jumps out for an ambush, but Xiaoyong casually steps aside. Xiaoyong dodges the bullet like a professional. Then he grabs the thug's arm, forcibly folds the guy's own gun back against his neck, and pulls the trigger for him. Making a guy shoot himself with his own weapon is a level of disrespect you just cannot recover from. Xiaoyong pushes straight into the building itself. A few desperate thugs rush him with melee weapons, but thanks to his massive physical augmentation, he makes incredibly quick work of them. With the threat entirely neutralized, Xiaoyong calls the terrified survivors out of hiding, receiving instant, joyful praise from Little Zhe. A system notification suddenly pings in his vision. He just unlocked a brand new task to recruit 5 survivors from Rongxiang Gardens for a solid 25 points. Captain Lee steps up, checking the bodies, and identifies the dead thugs as the notorious beasts from Baikuishan villas down in the south. Xiaoyong narrows his eyes, strongly suspecting this is the exact same settlement where his toxic ex Cui Jing and her coward boyfriend Li Shuxiong holed up in his past life. Xiaoyong instructs Captain Lee to strip the dead thugs and salvage all their handguns. Then, he completely shocks the captain by handing over his own personal rifle along with 5 fully loaded magazines. He assures Captain Lee this military-grade hardware will keep them protected against any future attacks, promising to return in a few days to safely relocate everyone to his eastern base. Giving away an assault rifle in the apocalypse is the ultimate love language. To provide a little more context, Captain Lee calls over 2 survivors, Lu Chao and Chen Jie, who recently fled from the south. They confirm that Baikuishan is a massively resourceful, heavily armed gang totally dominating the southern sector. Satisfied with the intel, Xiaoyong bids the group farewell and heads out. The scene cuts to the Baikuishan stronghold, an absolutely horrifying base where literal dead bodies are casually hanging from the exterior walls. Inside, the faction leader, Wan, is ruthlessly berating his subordinate, Xiao Li, for his utter lack of results. Alongside their associate Suji Yi, the villains start plotting a violent raid to seize the massive supply stash over at Jinyu Mansion. But their little evil boardroom meeting is abruptly interrupted. A panicked messenger bursts through the door. The entire 7-man hit squad they sent to Rongxiang Gardens has been completely wiped out. Xiao Li is absolutely stunned, refusing to believe that regular, starving civilians managed to defeat his heavily armed men. Furious and totally humiliated, he screams at an underling named Taozi, ordering him to immediately assemble every single piece of armed personnel for a massive, all-out assault. Jiang Xiaoyong finally rolls back up to his fortified base with Xiaoli and her young son. Right as he steps through the heavy steel gates, the system chimes in to confirm the successful completion of his rescue mission. He scores a sweet 25 points, bringing his current stash up to 36. Shanshan runs up to warmly welcome him back, but Xiaoyong immediately scans the room and notices Yiming is missing. Xiaoyong casually remarks that it was exactly as expected. Shanshan looks at him in shock, asking if he actually knew Yiming was going to betray them all along. Xiaoyong just cuts her off. He orders Zhang Qi to take Xiaoli and her son to a safe room, and then strictly instructs everyone to gather together. First Xiaoyong examines an weapon and then Zhang Qi picks it up, the heavy-scoped rifle that Yiming used to ambush them, expecting it to be highly lethal. He pops the magazine and is completely surprised to find it loaded entirely with rubber bullets. As they step into the room, Xiaoyong points at the massive zombie in the corner and calmly explains that Chun Chong is no ordinary monster. He reveals a previous test he ran on the bound, mutating Chun Chong. Xiaoyong had looked the zombie in the eye and told him to blink 3 times if he understood him. Chun Chong immediately blinked 3 times. Taking it a step further, Xiaoyong asked him to blink the answer to a basic multiplication problem. Without hesitating, the zombie blinked exactly 6 times. Xiaoyong explains that people infected by these otherworldly sources actually have a tiny chance of becoming rare mutants, retaining high intelligence and most of their past memories. Back in the present, Chun Chong is aggressively stepping over Yiming's battered body. Xiaoyong calmly stops his mutated friend and just directs him to dispose of the trash already. As Chun Chong drags Yiming out, Zhang Qi watches in disbelief. He asks out loud if Chun Chong really remembers everything, and more importantly, if he remembers him. In response, The towering mutant lunges forward and playfully goes for Zhang Qi's balls. Zhang Qi winces but smiles, remarking that his friend's hands are still incredibly annoying, fully confirming he truly remembers everything. Getting physically assaulted by your zombie best friend as a nostalgic greeting is the exact kind of brotherhood we love to see. Securing his new mutated buddy triggers the mutant companion achievement, dropping another 10 points into Xiaoyong's account and bringing his balance to 46. Later in his room, Xiaoyong browses the system store and spots a newly unlocked level 2 black tech supply box. It costs a massive 50 points, which is just slightly out of his budget. Instead, he happily drops 5 points each on a level 1 life-saving aid box and an arm deterrence box. The life-saving box gives him an otherworldly infection inhibitor, a clutch item that can actually stop a fresh bite from turning into a full-blown mutation. The arm deterrence box drops a massive, high-powered Barrett anti-material sniper rifle loaded with 10 rounds. Nothing says peaceful negotiation like a 50 caliber sniper rifle that can shoot through an engine block. The very next day, Xiaoyong first takes his survival mates out in the fortress ground for shooting practice and states everybody has to do shooting practice at least 1 hour a day. After saying this, he turns toward Shenghua and says start preparing extra rooms. He is planning to house the new survivors he intends to recruit. Xiaoyong fires up the heavy bus he found on road and drives back toward the city, bringing his mutant friend Chun Chong along for the ride. He looks at Chun Chong and tells him he can take his heavy muzzle off while they are alone in the vehicle. But he strictly warns him to keep it on at Yongxiang Garden so they do not absolutely terrify the local civilians. Meanwhile, down south at the Baikuishan stronghold, things are escalating fast. Chief Li violently assembles his heavily armed forces in the back of a pickup truck. Still absolutely furious over his wiped-out squad, he screams at his men, ordering an all-out assault to completely conquer Yongxiang Garden. The Baikuishan raiders, led entirely by boss Xiao Li, aggressively pull up to Banyan Garden Building 8 in a battered pickup truck. Inside the building, Captain Li instantly spots them from a window. He turns to his terrified survivors, strictly ordering them to stay calm, stick directly to the plan, and take up their defensive positions. He grabs his gear and heads straight up to the rooftop, giving them one final warning to absolutely not underestimate these raiders. Even with the heavy weapons Xiaoyong gifted them, the raiders are still heavily armed and massively outnumber them. Outside, the arrogant raiders advance, and boss Xiao Li ruthlessly orders his men to just start blasting at the windows. A relentless barrage of bullets completely shatters the glass, forcing the screaming survivors to desperately duck for cover. Right on cue, Captain Li is perfectly positioned up on the terrace. Down below, boss Xiao Li smugly grabs a megaphone and yells a mocking hey. His little villain monologue is instantly interrupted by a precise, devastating sniper shot that blows one of his thugs' heads clean off. Before they can even process the blood splatter, another heavy round strikes a second raider directly in the leg. Boss Xiao Li is completely and utterly shocked. He realizes his intel was absolute garbage. He thought these starving civilians only had 4 measly handguns, but they are clearly packing a high-powered rifle. Fumbling your raid intel this badly is exactly why you always double-check the group chat before rushing the enemy base. Panicking, Xiao Li violently orders his men to find cover and calls for an immediate retreat. The remaining raiders frantically scramble back to their pickup truck, but Captain Li drops another one dead, right, before he can even climb inside, leaving boss Xiao Li completely pinned down. He nervously waits it out, fully believing the shooter must have finally run out of ammo, and makes a desperate sprint for the retreating truck. But Captain Li is an absolute professional. He quickly reloads the rifle and ruthlessly picks off one more thug with a flawless headshot as they flee. Meanwhile, Xiaoyong is casually driving his massive blue bus toward the complex. He spots the battered raiders fleeing in their truck, but completely ignores them, choosing to focus strictly on his points-generating recruitment mission. Upon arriving at the blood-soaked courtyard, he sends his mutant zombie buddy Chun Chong out ahead to handle any random stragglers. Connecting the dots, he easily deduces that the speeding, bullet-riddled truck he just passed on the road definitely belonged to the retreating raiders. He looks around, grinning as he notes that the automatic rifle he left behind clearly came in extremely handy. He firmly instructs the mutant to just meet him at the bottom of Building 8 once he is finished. Chun Chong excitedly growls while standing over a dead raider's corpse, and Xiaoyong casually gives him permission to feed. Xiaoyong smoothly walks into the building,